Where are the points? Can you believe it? We are already 7 weeks through the 2025 Fantasy Major League Rugby season, and some interesting fantasy trends have come up. On this week's episode of Fantasy Ruckers Show, we, of course, look back at the weekend that was in some exciting round 7 matches, plus look ahead to the week 8 that is to come and go over those fantasy trends that you need to know more about. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 148 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much for Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR with you each and every single week. Matt Yee, Devin, Vandy, Vanderpool. I am Ryan Yee, and we got a lot to talk about on this episode. A jam-packed week 7 of matches, all taking place on Saturday. Scrambling to figure out which ones you're going to watch, which ones you're going to flip onto, because there was a whole bunch of overlap, but we made do and made sure to capture all the games. But boys, Maddie, Vandy, how did you boys do over the weekend and trying to coordinate and plan watching the games on Saturday there?
It's actually, I've got a perfect little situation. You know, I start the first game delayed by 30 minutes.
Okay.
And it allows me to basically skip through all the non-ball in play time.
Okay.
So I get to skip all that, and then I get to the end of the game. Then I'm already behind on the 7 o'clock game, so it's perfect. And I get to skip through all that, behind on the 8 o'clock. Definitely not going to watch the 10 o'clocks. That's going to be a Sunday thing. But yeah, that's how I finagled it.
I don't blame you. Of course, Vandy has Utah front and center as our in-house Utah fan.
That's right.
Tough one this week, which of course we'll get into. But Vandy, pretty fun weekend of rugby. Maybe not so much for your Warriors boys.
Yeah, not Warriors, not against Maddie either. I know we're gonna get to that too. So tough week of rugby, but I mean, weekend was good. Had my son's skating festival thing, so that was
Let's
pretty
go.
cool.
Skating in March, as it's warming
Canada,
up. It's
boys,
okay.
Canada.
That's as Canadian as it gets. Either way, though, yeah,
Elbows
Vandy,
out,
I know, tough one for the Utah, tough one for your fantasy team. But hey, we will be getting into the TFR betting challenge, which doesn't look too bad for us, though, on that side of things, which
Crush the
we'll
lines.
get
It's not
into
great
a little
either.
bit. Over here too. But hey, again, like I mentioned, we got a jam-packed episode. We're going to break down the week 7 that was in all of the 5 matches that were there. Of course, we'll go over the latest news and notes from around the league, talk a little bit about some happenings from around the world of fantasy MLR and our Supreme Commissioner Yee's League update, talk a little waiver wire, and of course, look ahead to the week 8 that is to come, plus a little bit of betting that we talked about just there. But before we get into it, like we say every episode, if you aren't already, follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers, handles up above if you're watching on the YouTube video, down below if you're listening on the pod, it's in the description. Drop us a like, subscribe on the YouTube channel, hit that bell, do all that good stuff because it helps us out. We really do appreciate the support. And hey, join the movement that is making fantasy rugby a reality in Major League Rugby. We got a Discord channel that is popping off each and every week. If you like talking rugby, whether that's fantasy, whether that's just rugby as a whole, whether that's a little bit of betting, we have a little bit of everything for you. Fun group of people over there. Again, you can join that with the link in the description. And hey, check out the official platform for the Fantasy Ruckers Fantasy MLR Leagues. That is thefantasyruckers.com. Each and every single week, I hop on a weekly meeting call with Alistair Kirschpool, our website guru, about fun little improvements, enhancements, all that good stuff. And there is so much to come on top of everything that has already been put on that site. You'll want to check it out. Again, all the stats from the year so far, plus previous years, are up there. So if you're just interested in looking at numbers from around the league, great spot for you to do that. All right, boys, you ready to get right into this episode 148?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
News dump.
All right, let's start off this episode 148 with our TFR news dump and go over everything that has happened over the course of the past week in the world of Major League Rugby. A lot more busier than usual at this time of the year. I know last episode we had a pretty lackluster news dump portion where there really wasn't much to talk about, but there was a handful of things to go over that either came out just as we released the podcast last week or over the weekend with some big milestones that were reached. Let's talk about and catch up with some of the signings that has happened over the course of the past 7 days. Zach Ferentz, the announcement of the second rower getting added to the San Diego Legion was announced not too long after our last episode. He most recently played in the Pro D2. The Englishman is set to now go out on the West Coast and join the Legion that are looking to bolster that second row room. He'll join a room with Jed Holloway, which will be fun to see. Zach Ferentz. Not too sure how fantasy relevant this will be, but a little bit more depth here for the San Diego Legion.
Yeah, not too sure, but we'll find out for sure. I mean, that engine room for San Diego's pretty set with him and Holloway and Harvey.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're feeling pretty set. But hey, nothing, you can't go wrong with some depth in this grueling sprint of a season.
Yeah, absolutely. Another note that kind of snuck under the radar. No announcement by Old Glory DC. There was little inklings from Brian Ray at Ray's Rugby talking about the former U20 Wales prop Joe Reese joining the Old Glory DC side. We didn't get an official announcement from the team, but he did appear in the lineup for the first time this season over the weekend in their matchup against RFC Los Angeles. Joe Reese joining in. Not really necessarily fantasy impactful this past week, only racking up 1.5 points. But again, expected for a guy that is playing the number 3 position. But Joe Reese just bolstering that front row room. I feel like the theme of what MLR has been that you can never have enough front row players in that
Nope,
room because you know that you're going to need them when you don't have them.
ain't that the truth?
And then lastly here, Yavon, I assume, Yavon Camp Villalobos,
I think you're
formerly
thinking
of
too
the
much.
Houston,
You're
formerly of
overthinking
the
it,
formerly of the Houston SaberCats, talking about second row players, has been given out on a 1 month loan to Anthem Rugby Carolina in exchange for, yes, you guessed it, 2025 salary cap consideration. So
Fugazi.
for a bucket of change, Yvonne Camp Villalobos is going over to Anthem Rugby Carolina for 1 month. We've seen this before. Junior Gaffa was put on loan to Anthem RC, and that ended up being a permanent stay. I can imagine with the depth that Houston has, it's not a bad thing that Yvonne Camp Villalobos, I'm going to say that name over and over and over again, is heading over to Anthem to maybe get a little bit more playing time over there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll
All right.
see how he goes.
A handful of notable milestones that we need to talk about that happened over the course of the weekend. Two milestones, one for a player, one for a team. NOLA, we talked about Utah hitting their 100th game last week. I feel like now we're going to kind of get a string of these happening now that there's been a bunch of teams that have hit that.
Yeah.
NOLA Gold is now the 5th team to reach 100 MLR games. And then from the player side, Emmanuel Albert reached his 50th appearance in Major League Rugby. But what is the most interesting fact is that Emmanuel Albert is the first MLR draftee to reach 50 MLR games. So interesting little tidbit there.
I think he did that last week.
Was that the week before?
I think he did it last week where he did, because I remember personally saying congratulations to him on the show. I don't know him personally, but I believe it was last week that it was the 50th. But hey, can never give enough flowers to homegrown talent getting 50 caps in the MLR.
I missed my past tense there in the news. Became the first draftee before this stuff came out. So 51 games. The first will change that. First MLR draftee to reach 51 games.
Let's go.
Like to see that. All right. And then lastly here, pretty cool thing here. It does come with a caveat, but the lineup that Anthem Rugby Carolina came out with this past week against the Seattle Seawolves was the first time that there was a all domestic side in the
Yeah.
MLR, no international players. Again, the caveat there, as tweeted out by Brian Ray, is that their all domestic side, in quote, does include Ishi Safodian, who has become a USA Pathway player. He has that status. He's not actually Eagles eligible until September, but potatoes, close
See,
enough. We're getting there.
Greasy.
if they told me this when we were making our picks, I would have switched and knew that the upset wasn't going to happen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. But it's okay. They weren't far from it, though. They were close. And we'll break into it a little bit here. But hey, a handful of milestones, a handful of signings. Shout out to everyone there. And that is your TFR news done. Maddie, anything else from your insiders?
No, and I got no inside stuff now. I've closed the insider role. I'm all focused in on the fantasy MLR side of things.
All right. Well, speaking of fantasy MLR, let's talk a little bit to our league members.
I don't think you want it this week, right?
I don't want to do it.
You don't want to talk to the people.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
Yeah, you are right about that. But anyways, hear ye, here is Supreme Commissioner Yi with a Fantasy Ruckers League update. Yeah, we start off this segment with the weekly challenge. It was the highest of highs for me last week after coming away with a big time victory. Collected my flowers, walked off the stage and said, you know what, let's go back at it and try to do this thing again. Does not happen for me in week 7, but I believe for the second time this year, Alistair Kirsch-Poole, our website guru, gets the top spot with 59.5 fantasy points, large in part due to having Devon Rousseau in that lineup. I imagine that our top handful of people that hit the top 5 list had our Devon Rousseau in there, accumulating for more than half the fantasy points this week. Matt, you finished 3rd. You're still 1st on the season. I did tell AKP on our weekly call that it would be nothing more sweet for me for him to catch up to you, and he's doing just that. Only 16 points away from you, closing in that gap. Vandy, it's okay. 12th place finish. That's why it's the weekly challenge. You
still ahead of him on the season
You know
rank,
what?
buddy. Don't you worry.
Thank God for Davey Coates.
Yeah.
Because my front row, second row, center, and back 3 all got me 1. Actually, my center got me -1.
And honestly, that would have been quite impressive if you could have stayed in single digits. Honestly,
If I could have gotten all 1s, that's probably more impressive than what Alistair did, honestly.
Honestly. And myself, Vandy, you are 8th on the year. Myself, finishing 9th this week. So a little bit ahead of you, Vandy, but I am still behind you on the season record.
I got to reel this back, boys. Like, I was off to a hot jump. Fantasy 2, Utah 2, and just, I don't know.
It's a tough week.
It's one of those chickens weeks, or something.
It's one of those weeks that humbles you, right? Fantasy has a good way to do that.
I've been getting humbled.
You can't get too high, can't get too low when it comes to this game. And Vandy, this is one of those.
That's why I was riding those highs, man. I had to. I was calling it out. I'm like, just wait, boys.
Hey, you got to enjoy it when it lasts, because those weeks don't come often, and you just got to bite the bullet when it comes to these ones. The trend continues though with this as well. The Fantasy Ruckers lineup doing better than myself. Finishing 5th on the year. I think we should just swap the points there. Ryan Yee is now the official Fantasy Ruckers. I think I can do that, right?
I remember you saying you didn't know who was filling that out.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Anyways, so take part in the weekly challenge. Get your first taste of Fantasy MLR. You build a 5-player lineup using a budget of $15. It's a nice little way to dabble and get that first taste. Again, anyone can join. You can sign up on our website, thefantasyruckers.com. Lots of fun stuff, and compete against us, the show hosts, other people on the TFR team, and of course, other people as part of our community.
And yes, there is a season rank, but there's nothing wrong with popping in from week to week. Maybe you hit week 8, but you can't do week 9. Maybe you do week 10. You can't do 11 and 12, week 13. You just pop in, get a little taste for it, get on a roll, win the week, win the day. That's all that matters.
There you go. Other housekeeping notes. Make sure you continue to check the eligibility of players. I'm sure there will be some that do alternate and do change.
Gala, you're so close, buddy.
Gala is very close. to be earning that again. So we will see again. Keep an eye out for that. We should be making announcements on our Discord as well. I want to do as well take the moment here in the Fantasy Ruckers Leagues update to talk a little bit about some interesting trends. We are 7 weeks into this fantasy MLR season, and I've been getting a hunch on the
Hmm?
feeling of this year, and I want to get your guys' reaction to this. It did feel like, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong,
Wrong.
Might be
On our
wrong.
Discord, we'd like to post the top point scorer of each team of each league in our Discord to give a shout out to guys that are really, really doing well each and every single week. And it does feel like we've had a lot less 100 point performers each and every week. I mean,
I
that's
think we're
kind of the
being
marquee.
bamboozled.
You know that you have a good week when you hit that triple digit mark. It just feels like not as many people are doing that. So I crunched the numbers. I gave a little bit of a call to our stats analyst guru,
You crunch numbers.
Nick Johnson.
Yeah, Nick
Yeah,
Johnson crunched the
when
numbers.
I exactly Nick crunched the numbers. Can't take too much credit there. And he looked into the historical numbers, and the inkling was true. We are
Mm.
actually down by almost 20% in terms of fantasy output this season so far. In 2023, through 7 rounds, we were at 9,987 fantasy points scored amongst all players. In 2024, 9,959.2 fantasy points scored among all players through 7 rounds. In 2025,
Ooh,
7,849. So almost down 2,000 points from what we normally see.
those extra
Re
games.
reaction to that.
Well, one, we got to factor in we got one less team.
That's true. That is
It
true.
There.
is true. But Dallas definitely did not account for 2,000 points.
No, no.
That's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I've been noticing that trend too, at least feeling like nobody's really hit 100. Your down weeks are a little bit less. And your high weeks are like you're struggling to hit 90. Like you're struggling to hit 85 some of these
Yeah.
weeks.
Well, the last couple of
Um,
years, I remember there being like at least a handful of guys. Like everybody had one guy that seemed to
yeah.
get you 20 a week. Like you were pretty set, 20 points. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And now it's like 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, it feels more half. I thought you were going to say more than
Yeah.
20%, honestly.
Yeah. To me, I feel like getting double digits from guys is now like
It's huge.
it's like a stud. Like those are your studs. Like if
Yeah.
you get consistent double digits, you look at a guy like Jonah Mo, that guy has gotten double digits every week, whether it's between 20 or 10 to 30,
Yeah.
he's getting that every week. I think now we have to kind of reshift and readjust our aim and understand that look, 10 to 15, that is solid.
And you know what?
Even
It
7 to
happens
10
in
is
all sports.
average. Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not exclusive to rugby. Like you hear scoring's down. Sometimes they make rule changes. Like, I remember scoring was down pretty big like a while ago in hockey, and they reduced the goalie size pads for a bit. Some things happen. You just have down years sometimes, but
Yeah. I mean, it's
You know,
interesting.
you know what I think it is? I think
What?
it's the tackles. Somebody else is counting. Somebody's counting tackles differently. It's got to be. I feel like we have less number of times that guys are hitting these crazy tackle numbers that we
Yeah.
saw last year.
That's true. Maybe, yeah, maybe the way
Or
that
more
but you
turnovers.
see less guys, I would say, playing like high minutes now. I don't know.
it is
Maybe.
true too. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like there are a lot of factors, right? Vandy, you mentioned it. It does feel like we had earlier by Mageddon, so maybe there's a
Mm.
reason why
Also
there that
true.
you mentioned. But to the flip side, again, to the rosters and starting lineups that people are putting out, to Maddie's point, it does feel like the threshold is you're quite content with 10 to 15.
Yeah.
And instead of what maybe we were seeing last year. We got to dig a little bit deeper here, but I do feel like I know from a 30-point scoring performance, we had 4 last year through 7 rounds. This year we only have 2. Now 30 points is a lot of points.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to look deeper into the 20-point
I was
range,
just gonna
right?
say, I feel like that's
Because
where the key is.
even looking at some of the team of the week graphics that we put out, at the start of it does feel like that those numbers are also kind of subdued a little bit.
Ye-
Where last year we saw more
Yeah.
25 points, 20 points, where now again it's the high teens,
Do you feel
15s
like
around
fly
there.
halves are scoring less? Like, don't you feel
I
like
do
there's
think it
more
does feel like that
guys are
too.
kicking than just fly halves?
Yes.
Like every
That's
team has another guy that kicks for them.
It's true.
that's for sure.
D'Angelo, Leo Ela on
Mitch
Utah. You
Wilson will
got
kick some.
Mitch
Yeah.
Wilson,
Penny on the Free Jacks. I
Ethan
think
Grayson
Seattle
on San
switches it
Diego.
up.
Yeah.
so. Here's what I think. The new focus before we move on to kind of the recap of the week. 15 plus, phenomenal. Great week. You had an unreal week from the guy. You got a great performance. 10 to 15, fantastic week. Solid week, great week. You can be really happy with that. 5 to 10, that's like average. All right. You're feeling good. That's average. That's what you're feeling from those players. And then 0 to 5 is like, you know, pretty
It's
tough week
still
for you.
0 to
But
5. Yeah.
yeah, it's
That's
still
that was
0 to
still
5.
hard.
But now we're looking at 5 to 10 and 10 to 15 with a little bit of a higher oomph than we did the previous years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny because we did have one of those off-season breakdowns where we went from like excellent performances, good performances. You remember that episode?
Yep.
And it does feel like we have to downgrade those tiers like one shift, down lower, at least this season, because it does
Yep.
feel like points are at a little bit more of a premium. But either way, interesting tidbit, I thought, an interesting trend
Yeah.
through 7 weeks. Let us know what you guys think, especially if you're playing in this fantasy MLR season and played in the seasons past. Let us know in the comments what you think about what feels like a lower scoring season so far, 7 weeks. And hey, there's still lots of time for that to change. So we'll see whether or not that does change. But hey, let's talk about what went down in round 7 to contribute to some of those points that were scored this past week.
Quick Tap Recap.
All right, time for our TFR quick tap recap for week 7. A full slate of games, again, like we mentioned at the top of the show, starting on Saturday and ran through the course of the evening. One team on bye, the Miami Sharks. I guess, guys, overall thoughts on week 7. This season seems to be flying by. I cannot believe we
Yeah.
are 7 weeks through the 2025 Major League Rugby season already.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Not as high scoring as last week. But a lot of close games and a lot of, I think, exciting matches to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And let's get into one of those exciting matches. Maybe not one of the lower scoring ones. This one was one of the few higher scoring ones. I believe it was a
Penalty counts,
scoregami,
too.
and I think one of the highest scoregamis of all time. RFC Los Angeles at home taking on Old Glory DC to open up week 7. A 54-44 victory. It did feel like they said it on the broadcast. It did feel like at one point in the game that it was the team to reach 50 points was going to be the team that was going to run away with this victory. But man, I think overall thoughts, a messy game, I think, on both sides, and it was really just shotgun, machine gun approach to who could score more points. What were your guys' thoughts?
It's a bit ridiculous how many penalties
It was.
that went out. I mean, were all of them earned? Maybe. But yeah, there's just a lot of penalties going out. It kind of ruins the flow of the game, but it is what it is. Still high scoring. I'll talk more so to I think some of the players like for me, like Ben Houston for LARFC, just an absolute meaning. Like seeing him with ball in hand makes me realize that he is in no threat from losing his spot to Semi Kunatani. And I think when I was watching this, I just have this feeling that Kunatani isn't necessarily game fit to play full 80 at the moment. Like you just watch him move around the pitch and it's just not quite as explosive or dynamic. And you even see him, some of his off the ball work, like it's just not quite there. And I think we're going to continue to see that for at least the next few matches. And I don't think he's a guy that you can really trust to start. But we can get into that later. I really like the way LARC. It was a nice little way for LARC to kind of come off a win, get 2 in a row. And their offense looks like they're humming. And yeah, it was a good game to watch.
Not to beat a dead horse here, but what's a crazy stat about this game? Oh, close to 100 points scored. I think the most fantasy points scored was 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? 54 points on
Yeah.
one side, 44 on the other, and the highest is 19.
And just spread across a bunch of players, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm counting here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 9 players in double digits.
Yeah.
It does feel like points do come from a more wider margin of players. You'd expect, somebody to have a massive game when it's 54 to 44. But
I mean, probably on the cards too, but
yeah. Yeah, and that's I think that is a hot topic right now. I don't want to get too much into it because again, I think it is something to reassess maybe
Who
during
was
the
a ref
off
for this
season.
game? Was it Anselmi? That guy
Uh,
loves for people to hear his voice.
yeah, it's we've been on the show before saying how much we love the way that rugby is officiated,
Hmm.
right? The fact that they typically get calls right and they aren't afraid to admit when they are wrong and correct a call when they need to, which doesn't often happen in a lot of other sports.
Hmm.
But there is a fine margin when it comes to having that accuracy and that willingness to correct the call and the flow to Maddie's point of the game and the timing of the game. And I feel like
Yeah.
right now the MLR is struggling with that a little bit, where some of these TMO calls are really disrupting the flow of the game, taking a little bit too long, maybe correcting something that was a little bit further back that didn't have anything to do with the point at which they were at the game.
Yeah.
That's just aside from this match that I kind of started thinking I know is a hot topic that a lot of people are talking about right now. But again,
Well,
I think they'll address that and they'll continue to get moving forward.
the fact that I am watching games delayed so I can skip
Yeah,
mainly the
there
TMO
you go. Maybe that's
decisions
the
is
secret
literally
recipe.
a point to how many times I go to the TMO. But fantasy is not TMO related.
Yeah.
Fantasy,
Unless
there
they're
were
getting
some players
yellowed.
here, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
unless they're getting yellow.
Now,
But hey, there were some players here. Like this back row room for LA
Oh,
yeah,
nasty.
looks
has to be a
looks
topic of
very good.
discussion.
Let's start with it. Ed Timpson starts is our back row team of the week honoree. 19.1 fantasy points, only in 55 minutes played, scores 49, has 49 meters gained, adds 2 tries and 9 tackles. He's the highest scoring player in this, but Maddie, you mentioned it, back row room. Ben Houston, you add to that, 14.4 for him in what is looking like a spectacular season for him so far. Four
He
straight
looks
weeks of over 10-point performances. This was a guy that you were picking off waiver wire not too long ago. And in a full 80 played against Old Glory DC, has 50 meters gained, 13 tackles, a try for 14.4 fantasy points.
to me, Houston looks too good with ball in hand. Sorry, not Houston Save. Ben Houston looks
Hmm.
too good with the ball in hand. To like not start him or to not have him on a roster. Like he needs to be rostered
Mm-hmm.
simply because of how good he is ball in hand. And back rowers that are great with ball in hand, like historically, we've seen this. They do well fantasy wise. Like Ed Timpson, I look at the two guys. Like Ed Timpson's a guy that really capitalizes on opportunities to score tries. You
Mm-hmm.
see both of his tries like very much close to the goal line, but you see the way that Ben Houston plays. Like, yes, it looks like he only got 1 meter gain more than Ed Timpson, but when you watch Ben Houston, you just see a much more dynamic runner and a guy who can really sometimes looks like a wing out there and plays like a wing out there. And you love to see that.
Yeah, I agree. On to some other like I feel like as well, like to as I mentioned, some of these guys, like LA is one of those teams. I get it that they're 3-3 right now, but like in fantasy sports, right? Like there are always those teams. They may not be good from a like the sport itself standpoint, where they still might have areas where they need to improve to become a quote unquote championship winning team. But like there are some teams, just the way that they play, you want a piece of that team. Right. And like LA feels like one of those teams where like the fantasy assets that you get from this team are just, it's so fun to have them because they can explode for a 60-meter play. Right. And there you go. There's the 6 points that you need for that. Right. And one of those guys, like, I mean, Billy Meeks, right? He's having a great season, consistent as they
Yeah.
come right now. Like, I mean, 14.1 for his best performance of the year, full 80 played, scores his first try of the year. He has 5 straight games in double-digit tackles, playing the full 80, like I mentioned. In the games that he just adds a try, like he becomes one of the top players in there. Christian Dyer had a good game when you add to that with the try scoring ability, and we saw our first glimpse. I know from a fantasy standpoint wasn't nothing crazy, but Reese McDonald. I mean,
Well,
as soon as he came on the field,
5.2 points in 20 minutes. That's
Reese, if
some
you
work put
if
in.
you've been holding on to him this long, which people have been because he's 100% owned, like this team has players, right?
Yes.
They just got to piece it together. It feels like they make mistakes in untimely fashion where they get a card here and there that puts them on the back foot that keeps Old Glory DC in the game. Um, But if this team can string it together, they have the pieces. And I think that's what the hype was. That's why I bought into the hype heading into this year, that I thought that they can be a team that contends for the Shield. And they've shown at times glimpses of it. But again, there are the things outside of fantasy that they just need to shape up. But when it comes to fantasy, I want every piece that I can get from this LA squad because they have the ability to score points for you on a regular basis.
Yeah. And the play style as well. They play quick, they
Absolutely.
play fast, they love to play with the ball in hand.
Just to quickly mention some Old Glory DC guys, our one team of the week honoree from the Old Glory DC side of things is the defensive set piece with 5 fantasy points. They score a set piece try. They have the penalty
Baka's
try
back.
in there.
Bandy.
Bach is back.
Bach is back. And he took advantage of that. Jason Robertson, I mean, he might become low key like one of the most consistent and best fly halves to have this season
Yeah,
because
I agree.
he's going to play the full game for you. They're Old Glory DC, barring any injury, don't have any other options. Scores his highest point total this past week with the 3 penalty kicks, 2 conversions for 16.7 fantasy points. And he just gets you double digits every single week. And you don't have to worry, oh, is he in? Is he out?
Yeah.
Right? Is it a Rodney Iona Fuche situation? Is it a McClutchy, Grayson situation? Is it a Potros, which I know who's been injured, but Harrison Boyle's situation who's been in there. But there's so much confidence in Jason Robertson. Just some other guys, Stephen Hughes, which we'll talk about a little more, 12.7 for him. And then Vandy, you like to see this big boy scoring tries. Jack Escaro sneaks one in there for 12.2. And Nick
Sure.
Grigg looked very, very solid, 12.1 for him as well, Maddie. I know you're a big fan of Nick
Fridge.
Grigg. There you go. Yeah, the fridge. Anything else for this match before we move on to the next one?
No, let's move.
All right. Next matchup at 7 p.m. 1 hour later, the NOLA Gold hosting the Chicago Hounds. NOLA seemed to feel like they kind of maybe were going to squeak away
Nope.
with a win, and
Mm-mm.
then Chicago comes back and takes this one 20-18. NOLA's struggles continues. Chicago continues to find a way to win games. Thoughts on this one?
Closer than I thought, but
Mhm.
man, NOLA actually came to play. Like they were building phases in that first half and really putting Chicago under pressure. I thought they were Chicago's defensively, they weren't as dominant in the tackle as they were kind of before the bye week. But everything just seemed to flip in that second half. Like NOLA, I feel like this is a trend. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this is a trend for them. Like they come out really hot and we've seen them collapse so many times in second halves.
Did it last year
And
too.
it just happened again. Yeah, exactly. And like you can't do that against a side like Chicago the way that they're playing this year. They will take advantage. But it's kind of weird. Like as I'm looking at the fantasy wise, you see a lot of NOLA guys up there in comparison to kind of Chicago guys when you're looking at top fantasy scores. So it's kind of interesting to look at it from that lens.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because almost on the flip conversation of Los Angeles side of things, there are also teams that you don't like to have fantasy assets of, even if they're very good. And Vandy, you can attest that. Like, I think what I'm alluding to is like the fantasy football, the whole situation, right? There are teams in football that play a certain style that really appeals to fantasy point scoring. Same way the other way, and that is also the same here in rugby as well. LA. They can score points. You're going to get fantasy point scoring. The way Chicago plays and just the methodical, slow style of we're going to just wear you down. It doesn't, it's successful, of course, right? They're first in the Eastern Conference. They're 5-1 on the season. But just from a fantasy standpoint of things, your highest point score is going to be a McLean Jones at 12.4 fantasy points, right? Like you don't need a guy to score, 20 or 30 points, and that won't be reflected in the success that they had. But it is interesting. Breaking it down from the NOLA side of things, Julian Roberts in his first start of the year, or excuse me, his second start of the year, first start at the fullback position, 14.8 fantasy
It was
points.
lethal on the counterattack.
Harley Wheeler, 13.2. Jonah Moe, Maddie mentioned him, is another one of those top tier back row players that's just consistent. 3 straight weeks in double digit performances, get 12.1 in this one. He's now gone 4 straight weeks where he's played the full 80. three straight with over 16 tackles, which is pretty insane. And then Aiden King, who is someone I'm going to talk about a little bit later, 11.2 in his first two career starts has now gone 8.4 and now 11.2 in full 80 played. So he's someone definitely to keep an eye on, which we will highlight in just a little bit. And then again, Chicago, McLean Jones, 12.4, Bryce Campbell, 11.8. And then Chris Hilsenbeck with 10.3 at the fly half position. Is this like, I guess the question, like, would you rather have Nola, despite how we've been on this show before talking about how atrocious sometimes Nola Gold's play has been, like, are you shying away from some of these Chicago Hounds fantasy assets because of that style?
Ah,
Ah, you know what? I got Ollie Devoto and Nate Osberger, and honestly, I'd play them both every week.
Yeah.
No fear.
it's tough not to. Like it's just it's a hard question to answer to yourself after the week's done because Augsburger has a chance to go off on your bench.
Yeah, you can get 100
Just
meters.
the yeah, just the fact that they're winning and they're a successful team and they're a winning team, you're
Well,
gonna
and
see these guys still do well.
to be fair, what they put up 20 this week, but then
Yeah.
they put up 30 the week before, 31
Yeah,
the
and
week
I've
before that, and 36 before that.
I've seen them
And
definitely like
31 against us.
this
So
definitely
4 of the
wasn't
last
their
5.
best game. Yeah,
Yeah.
this definitely wasn't their best game. I don't think it's time yet to hit the panic button necessarily on Chicago players. I think the panic button has been hit for a while now for these NOLA
But the
players.
one thing to, not compare back to football, like kind of Ryan was saying, but good teams, like it reminds you of the Chiefs almost. Whereas like, good team, but they just find a
Not
way
good
to make
enough.
games close. And even the low scoring games,
They'll win.
it's like, if it's a high scoring game, they'll put up what they have to. But if
Yeah.
it's a low scoring, they'll just put up what they have to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. It'll be interesting to see how kind of that plays out against. They have a matchup coming up this week, which does be an interesting one against the San Diego Legion, and will tell us a lot, I think, about where this team lies in terms of where they rank amongst the other teams. Anything else on this second matchup?
Go to the big one.
All right, let's go to the big one here.
One.
The Houston SaberCats at home taking on the San Diego Legion. Houston proving us wrong. All three of us on this show going San Diego. We were
You mean
we
San Diego
were
screwed us?
jumping on the San Diego bandwagon. We were drinking the Kool-Aid that is the Legion flavored Kool-Aid. And Houston said, wait a second. We're pretty good at rugby too. And they take this one 34 to 14.
I thought San Diego rather said, "Stop drinking our Kool-Aid. We're coming back down to earth." I think that's what they said because when I watch this game, I just look at the San Diego side that was just awful. Like you compare them from last week to this week. You look at how many unforced errors they had. You look at their execution of both kicking, of passing as well, just like ball in hand. Their set piece was pretty abysmal. It was just tough. Like they had so many unforced errors, and you're never going to win against a team like Houston with that many unforced errors. And unfortunately for San Diego, like Houston came out to play. Houston came out with a defensive execution that just suffocated San Diego, and you saw it time and time again. They made the right defensive decisions. Their line speed was great, and they were just winning the breakdown as well. So, yeah, San Diego just poor execution, a lot of unforced errors. And that's just not going to fly. Not going to fly against the top teams in this league.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
What I will say
just,
though, a bright spot on the San Diego side is watching that pink scrum cap of Rion Stowers just goose step every time he gets the ball.
And I think you're spot on, Maddie, last week on him being a primary pickup. He's still widely available. We'll talk again more about him later, but I think. Again, down to earth is a good way to characterize this one, Maddie. Teams are going to have these types of performances. Again, I think we're a little bit less swayed or maybe shook because we've seen the way that San Diego can play. But again, you can't.
No undefeated team this year.
If you're going to be a top tier team in this league, like you can't have a lot of these types of performances. But hey, kudos to Houston. Houston, after looking rough at the beginning of the year, Maddie, like just like step it back like 5 or 6 weeks and kind of where we were talking about Houston, they look like they are
Yeah.
playing an even more dynamic game than what they were last year that got them that incredible season.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time that I saw Houston look as good as they did last year defensively. Like
Mm.
this was the first game that I was like, all right, defensively, these guys are back and these guys have got their form back. So that's encouraging to see for you Houston fans out there. Stephen Lowen, you'll be feeling pretty good about that.
Fantasy point performers in this one. Let's give a shout out to Fly Half Team of the Week honoree Davey Kutzer.
What a weapon.
19.6 fantasy
So
points. I mean,
ridiculous.
this
So
guy,
dumb.
this he might be one of the most underlying guys that we had overlooked heading into this
I
year.
don't
Yeah.
understand how, like, you look at last week, the minute he comes on, he makes a difference. You look at this week, he starts and he makes a difference. Like, every time he touches the ball, it's absolute magic. And, like, I don't know why we don't have this guy as our top every position every year.
Yeah, because I think again,
We forget that this
Yeah.
guy exists. This 5'2" assassin exists.
and it's funny because there's a lot of caveats, right? That I think we bake into our head heading into draft season. Of course, that's what happens every year,
That's
right?
fantasy,
Every draft
yeah.
season. But like whether it's the concern of AJ Alatimu,
Ah,
right?
what,
And
what a
him,
dumb concern.
right? Or the concern of is he playing fly half? Is he playing back three? Right? Like obviously his value is much greater at fly half than it is back three. And if you bought into it, like I know some people did this year, saying, you know what, screw what people are saying about Davy Kutzer. He's a good rugby player and he just makes good plays on the field, and that's going to translate into fantasy points. You were 100% right because in his second best performance of the year, 19.6 against San Diego, 41 meters gained, a try scored, 2 straight games now with a try scored. His first time hits double digit tackles. He hasn't scored below 10 fantasy points all year long, and that includes appearances coming off the bench. Like
Crazy.
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Would you say in the past couple years, most consistent player, Davy Coates?
Has
I mean,
to be at least last year and
I
this year.
had him last year, and he was fun to have. He's right now our best. He's our best fantasy point performer. He is player number one in the world of fantasy MLR right now
A
by
decent
16
bit.
fantasy points.
Yep.
I mean
Yep.
that speaks for itself. And he wasn't even sniffing our top five rankings, let alone our fly half rankings.
You know
If
what
that's
it
what
is,
you,
honestly? It's just like I feel like you don't get any repeat. Um, I feel like you're trying to find the diamond in the rough in the draft because you very rarely get a guy who put up, first round points and does it again.
Mhm,
Never. Like, look at all the
Well,
draft. I would say the top 3 rounds, you're
Like
gonna get like
Kunitani.
2 guys that next year in the top 3 again.
well, people are now talking and chattering on social media that we have we have put into existence our very own Madden curse. Like we have the Fantasy Ruckers curse, where if you're
Literally,
drafting a guy first overall, like sorry,
Happened every year.
every year. Semi
every
Kunitani this past year. You can even say Jason Putros. Like if Putros went first overall in yours, he's been injured. Like I have him. And it's been, the year before that, Joe Mono. It didn't have a great year last year. The year
Ed
before
Fido.
that,
Ed
Ed
Fido.
Fido. Didn't have a great year before that. I think the year before that it was Bodine Waka, and then he
Yeah.
ended up, I think, dipping out, I think,
He
in the
bailed the
season.
league.
So yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
concerning.
There's just
It's
not
concerning.
a lot of there's
It's
still
crazy.
like tons of success, but it's just you don't get the repeat. Like it's just
Yeah. But to talk about guys that do repeat, Davy Kutzer
Davy
has been one of
Coates.
those guys. So
Yeah.
is it because he got drafted in the fifth or sixth round in most leagues rather
Is
than the first round?
is he
Maybe.
the CMC of rugby?
Yeah, honestly, just like he's so good that now he just gets overlooked, right?
He
Like
just gets overlooked.
it's just usual
Are
now
we
for
gonna
him.
kill his career next year?
Yeah.
We're gonna
What?
do it, aren't we? We're gonna take him first in the draft.
But the curse on
We're
him.
gonna set a new rule that you are not allowed to take. He's our fantasy sweetheart. We can't do that to him. You're not allowed to take David Kutzer in the first round.
All right. All right.
Either way, Andre Warner is our second team of the week honoree at the scrum half position.
Called it.
16.1 fantasy points. Best performance by far of the year so far. This is what you drafted Andre Warner to do. And he does this, that 40 meters gained, a try scored, 7 tackles, and a try assist.
I had this feeling in my bones that he was going to do well.
Yeah. Sam Tuifua. Let's give a shout out to him. He looked really good in this match.
Yeah, he did.
15.6 fantasy points. His second best point performance, 106 meters gained. With 64 minutes played, Sam Tuifua looked pretty solid as well. On the San Diego side of things, Shiloh Klein is our front row team of the week honoree, also my start of the week. I will give Maddie's flowers. Andre Warner was his start of the week as well. But Shiloh Klein, I don't know what it is, but according to our analytics, which we'll get into a little bit more, Houston just has an act of allowing front row fantasy points for some reason. And Shiloh Klein clearly reaped the rewards of that with 12.7 for him. The only other notable one was Rian Stowers at 10.4 with 111 meters gained, 2 straight game nows where he has over 100
Yeah,
meters.
which is crazy because against like a defense I was playing well and an offense I really wasn't, every time he got the ball, he made something of it. Like, I don't know what it is, but he just finds a way to get on the outside shoulder and make you miss.
Auto
But
start
yeah, I'll
now.
also, yeah, auto start. I was gonna say must start. You should be a must start for San Diego, and you should be a must start in your fantasy lineups. Ryan, I know you did not do it intentionally, but we did miss out on Patty Ryan, a name that we don't usually say, but is part of that White Lightning back row that they have there. 13.2 fantasy points, 80 minutes, 11 meters gained, but 17 tackles
Mhm.
and 3 steals.
Which we said
Um,
before is not happening as often, it feels like. So
yeah, but hey, him, Poitevin, Wilkin, one of them's got to do it. Patty Ryan decided to step up this week.
all right, let's shift on over to the second last matchup of the weekend.
Uh-oh.
9 o'clock Eastern time.
Uh-oh.
Seattle Seawolves, Anthem Rugby Carolina. Again, with the all
Oh, this wasn't the one
domestics,
that I was thinking of. I thought we
all
were going to the other
domestics,
one.
all domestic. We're saving the best for last, Maddie. We're saving the best for last.
Why?
All domestic side for Anthem. Seattle has been struggling, but at home, they steal away with a win, 25-17. I think this one
The
probably
battle.
looks a lot closer than what it seems to be here based on the score. They did have an early Devon Rousseau try called back earlier, I believe, because it was it a croc roll or something like that got
I
called.
don't know. That could have been a triple for us.
But our Seattle did what they needed to do to take care of business.
Yeah. Sorry, I was having a hard time reading my handwriting. Yeah, I mean, look, so I think one, I just want to quiet some of the people that are I don't know, like some barstool rugby accounts. Just quiet some of them saying that, this is like domestic. We need more domestic players. All for it, or we should limit the number of domestic players. Anthem could have won this game if they put out their top lineup. They put out a Clive and Laubser. Definitely, I think this was a winnable game. Some of these stars are just needed to compete in this league. But look, Carolina, I think they improved offensively. Like offensively, they look good. I think they're holding on to the ball a little bit more. They're building phases a little bit more. They just weren't quite dynamic enough to be able to make a difference. Could have been because Gerlach was coming into play 10, his first start at 10 in the MLR. That's a tough one to do. Probably could have done better with Lobster again. But yeah, I mean, they kept it close, but I think Seattle, when you really look at it, Seattle dominated this one. And Seattle defensively just really didn't let Anthem have anything. And I mean, Seattle dominated on the backs of Devon Rousseau, who is an absolute mutant in this game. Like this is the games that you keep Devon Rousseau in your lineup for.
Give me more Devon Rousseau at fullback than at center. Like I love some Devon Rousseau.
I just think like Anthem, the way that they play defensively just makes it like, think about every try, like both the tries that Devon Rousseau scored, both of them were plays that are just outside the 13 channel. And he just went crazy. Like, and we saw the same thing happen with the Houston Sabercats last week. Like, I think this 15 position is one that people are going to exploit, and that from a fantasy perspective, you have to look at as a must start for anyone who's starting at 15 against the Anthem.
Yeah, you said it last week. Good matchup for fullbacks against Anthem Rugby Carolina. But let's talk about Devon Rousseau, not only our center team of the week honoree, but our fantasy player of the week. 30.4 fantasy points. Again, just our second player of the year to surpass the 30-point mark. 173 meters gained. And he has 2 tries to add on top of that. Devon Rousseau, I mean,
he's like
outside
quietly,
of a couple bus games where he has had to fill in at the center position, I mean,
a 30 bomb and a 20
Solid,
bomb.
solid year for him so far. Four of those six matchups that he's appeared in have been above 10 points. He has two
Silly.
20 plus point performances this season so far. Other
So
Seattle
good.
guys, Rodney Iona, he looks fine at 10. I mean, got to shape up that kicking. Definitely misses some there that I think
Yeah, a lot.
leaves points on the table. But I mean, looked solid. 12.7 fantasy points for him. Tony Pulu scores a try in that for the third double digit score for Seattle Seawolves. The only double digit fantasy point score for Anthem Rugby Carolina was McKeen Alican, 14.3 fantasy points, 17 tackles for him, and three forced turnovers. Our second row team of the week honoree, though, on the Seattle side, Rhino Herbst at 7.8 fantasy points. A little bit of a down week for second row players.
Yeah, and I think just the Anthem fantasy output just shows uh just how kind of lack of I guess I don't know what the word is. They just didn't they weren't dynamic enough against a Seattle team that was really good defensively. And you see
Lack
that in
of
the fantasy
umph.
output.
Like,
Lack of
oh,
oomph. Yeah,
Lack
there
of
we go.
umph. Yeah, I think that's all that can be said about that one. Again, 25 to 17 victory for Seattle. I'm sure Seattle's feeling pretty damn good about geting that
Yeah,
win because it's been tough sleddings for them so far. They now still
they
sit last
needed
in the
it.
Western Conference, but 2-4
Jeez.
now. All right, let's shift on to the last one. Save the best for last. We saved this for Vandy to get
Vandy,
his reaction.
Vandy,
Old school Utah result. I guess you put this one. They look like they're dominating. They have 26, was it 26 to 5 in the first half? And somehow they get held
Vandy,
scoreless in the second half. New England takes this one 33 to 26.
could you please just walk us and the viewers through your emotions as you watch the last 4 minutes of play?
last 4 minutes were absolutely brutal. I mean, I thought we had it. I thought we were right there.
What
Terrible
was your
knock off.
thought
Terrible.
when you watched Vian Conradi stroll back down the field?
Oh, that part, yeah. When I was getting sick after Lasike rolls Buddy out and gets the yellow, I was like, no. And then blows the line. I thought he was going to score right there. Ends up in a breakdown. Basically the same result. But, dude, I got to say, you know what? Okay. Okay. The Mall was sick in the first half. Unbelievable.
Yes.
We were scoring everything off it. Looked unstoppable. And then I think maybe there was free popcorn at halftime or something. I think it was free popcorn. There must have been because they came out and they couldn't control the ball, man. Dude, every time the Free Jacks kicked it, I mean, to be fair, it was bouncy as all hell, but popcorn fingers everywhere. Uh, I mean, the whole second half, you could feel it coming. They were
Yeah.
blowing it up. We weren't supporting the lanes. It was just, it felt like you were just holding on. Like maybe we can break one. Every time we did break one, knock-ons, bro. Like, and
Yeah.
then
I love watching the Utah offense, so man. It's such a joy to watch.
and I love as soon as the CK got the yellow, basically their Hodgson's like, all right, I'm out of here. Like he's like, you know what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough one.
But I will say, like on the New England Free Jack side, I thought they played an improved game versus the last couple weeks
Honestly,
and the times that we've seen them.
I thought we lost it. I don't
Yeah.
think they played that good. I really,
Fair
really
enough.
don't. I think
I think they,
second
but
half it was so much self-inflicted error.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
their
fair. But
possession was unreal. I shouldn't say that. They were
they
dumb.
did something different this game. Like they didn't play through the backs. You think about
Yeah.
them and you think about a very effective and dynamic back line. But I watched a New England Free Jacks team move to play very much through their forwards and build phases through their forwards.
You know who I thought their
And
best player
yeah,
was, honestly? I thought, I mean, it's not on the score sheet, but I thought LaRue Milan played his best game of the season.
yeah,
He made some
yeah.
passes, like he made some kicks, and like I think he kicked two of the butterfingered ones.
Mm.
But I mean, just a tough game.
You can hear the solemnness in Vanny's voice. It's a tough one. Again, this is an episode all about humbling and bringing you back down to earth. Um, again, this is what Utah's learning though. If I had told you, Vandy, that Utah was going to be 4-2, third in a very tough Western Conference, 7 games into the season, I think you take that. And this is a team that's still like learning how to win matches, right? Especially off of the exodus that we talked about this offseason. And you got to give New England credit. They know how to win games, and if you give them a chance, they're going to capitalize on it, right? So we'll see. But again, from a game standpoint, New England's
Second
probably
half
pretty
off.
stoked to have come through with that victory in the second half. And friend of the show, Andrew Quattrin, come in the clutch
Yep.
to win that game winner. Let's talk a bit about some fantasy performers in this one. Again, this one didn't have any fantasy output really. No team of the week honorees, but Utah with the style that they play, you're still going to have guys that come through there. Nick Ben, 12.4. Kyle Brown, 11.5.
Good for him.
Liam Coltman continues to be one of the best front row players in all of the league.
A
Obviously,
beast.
with the pedigree, translating that to fantasy point performances. In every single game that he started in 5 of the 6 of Utah's matches. There's only been one time where he scored below 10 points, and that's incredible for a front rower. Like he has 4 tries on the season.
Dude, he's
Yeah,
Liam
unbelievable.
Colton.
At
ridiculous.
the back of the mall, he's unbelievable.
Yeah. On the New England side, Yaro Gomez Vara with a whole bunch of tackling and the try, 13 tackles and a try. And then Vian Conradi. I mean, he's starting to amp it up. And this is the Vian
Yeah.
Conradi that we remember.
He had a big
Hasn't
run
had that
too.
explosive game yet, but 3 straight games where he's had double-digit fantasy points. 10 tackles, 47 meters gained for 10.2 in this one.
Hmm.
Pretty solid. Anything else from this matchup that we need to do? What Maddie, if you needed to talk to a Utah Warriors fan, i.e. Vandy, off of a ledge here, what is your
Ain't no
words
ledge.
of wisdom
We
to
should have won that
Vandy
game. Run it
about
back.
I
this
wish
match?
you would step off from that ledge, my friend.
You know what?
Hmm.
The bye's coming at a perfect time. We come off the
Okay.
bye, we're gonna cook.
New England side.
Yeah. And look, like I think Utah is so good offensively. Like there's no need to panic at all. Like you guys, Utah looks the part. They have the set piece. They have the offensive structure. They have the Joel Hodgson. You guys are fine. At
New
least you're not
England's
Nola.
New England side of things, they are now 3-3, third place in the Eastern Conference. Things were looking pretty grim last week after a tough loss. They get a win against Utah. Where are you on the upswing with New England, or are you still skeptical about this team, the former
We're
champs?
still skeptical.
All right, still skeptical. All right. Well, that is the breakdown and recap of week 7. Again, LA, Chicago, Houston, Seattle, New England coming away with big time wins in week 7. It means it's time to look ahead to a week 8. But before we set those lineups, got to see who's available on the waiver wire to see who you can slot in that lineup this week.
Waiver wire breakdown.
All right, let's talk a little bit about waiver wire. Only one team on bye, so have had a nice little stretch here of no bye Mageddon weeks. Only Utah is there, so going to have to look for guys. If you have a Liam Coltman, listen to our front row waiver options that you may need to pick up. If you have a Frank Lahore, if you have a Joel Hodgson or D'Angelo Leila, or Spencer Jones, here are some options that you can have. Joe Mono. We'll help you out here in our waiver wire options here in this waiver wire breakdown heading into week 8. We're going to go through these waiver wire options, guys, and then we're going to have a fun game of drop or not. We know we love that game on this show, so we're going to talk about that here at the end of this segment to see who you would drop for some of these players. All right, let's start off with the front row position. Maddie, this is a guy that you had on your waiver wire watch last week, and you have him on this week again.
I just don't know why people keep sleeping on him. Yeah, Jake Turnbull. I mean, I don't understand why he's continuously like under 50% owned. When he comes off the bench, he puts up 8 points. When he starts, he puts up 5 points. Like these are some of the consistent numbers that you want from your front rowers. And Jake Turnbull, he's just like a staple of this lineup and always finds a way to kind of get it done, whether he scores a try or not. He finds a way to be involved and finds a way to put up fantasy points.
I think it's just that, right? I think it's people don't see him in the starting lineup and are skeptical to start him. But I guess what you're saying, Maddie, is that regardless of starting or coming off the bench, you're willing to pop this guy in your front row position.
Look, he's not going to get a 1 point game. Like you have a feeling that he's not going to get a 1 point game. The lowest he's had this year was a first week in 2.8,
And he
that's
started
fine.
that one.
Yeah, but I mean, like after that, he's at 4 points, 4.4, 4.9, 4.2, 8 off the bench, 8.6 off the bench, scoring tries in the last two. But like, yeah, he's just a consistent player. That's great for fantasy wise, I think.
Vandy needs a cold one after that Utah chat.
Yeah, you know what?
He
I got
needs to.
sad there. I had to go let a couple tears out, boys. Yeah, I'm
There
back.
you go.
We're here.
There you go. On my side for front row waiver wire watch players, this is a large in part matchup based pickup. But whoever essentially is starting for the front row for
Matter when
NOLA,
they're about to lose.
take on the Anthem Rugby Carolina squad this week.
Oh, I know.
Pick him up. Alex Lopetti, 33.9 fantasy points on
He's
the
gonna.
season. It's only 29% owned. I mean, it does have to say something that he is being the selected hooker over Big Joe consistently. Now, the reason why I have both the front row players here in this option is that I don't know if Big Joe maybe starts this week because that they're playing Anthem and they switch up things and give Lopetti some rest. But Lopetti may be a long-term option for you at the front row position. The Nola Gold set piece has been pretty productive. It's one of the ways that they are able to score tries, and Lopetti's been a great benefactor of that. I would pick up Lopetti on the waiver wire and then just really keep a close eye on when that Nola Gold lineup comes out. And if Tafetti is starting in that one, pick up Big Joe, drop Lopetti. But I do think Lopetti does have some long-term appeal at the front row position going forward.
I agree.
I will just shout out also, keep an eye out if Seth Smith is available, 57% owned. So he's available in almost half of leagues out there.
We're back to this.
I'm just saying, Seth Smith,
Back
57%
to
owned.
80% owned.
No,
Might be available in your
57% owned.
league.
Stop it, Maddie. Stop it. All right, let's go to the second row position. Maddie, who do you have in this one? A guy that you can pick up right now, not owned in any leagues.
Yeah, Cam Dolan, 0% owned. You know why? Because he's only played 4 matches for the NOLA Gold. And the first one he got -3. So why am I putting him up? Well, because you look at his later matches. If you need a second rower to kind of stream, 6.9 points in round 2, 5.1 points in round 6, 5.8 points in round 7. Like you, Ryan, like you said, he's got a nice little matchup against Anthem. Not that it means as much anymore, especially when you're NOLA. But hey, you're getting 5+ points from your second rower. You can be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. And I think that's the point of emphasis is that you're just trying to get like 4 or 5 points from your second row player. And even that's a good day. Like Vandy, what are you happy with? Second row position. What number are you happy to see? Are you content that your second row got you?
48.
48.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy.
And I mean, the guys getting 8, the Jet Always, the Jason Doms, like those guys are all scooped up. They're all on team. So if you need to go out the waiver wire, I'm sorry, you're going to have to settle for 5.
For me, I got Tavita Nakali of Old Glory DC, 25.7 fantasy points on the season. Has had his best weeks as of late. Has gone 3 straight games where he scored above 4. Double digit tackles in all of them. And the matchup is in his favor. Seattle has been allowing the most points to the second row position so far this season. So I think Tavita Nakali is a good streaming option this week if you have maybe a Gavin Thornbury that you need to look elsewhere for. Moving on to the back row position, Maddie, you're just hitting it. You're really taking it to me with 0% owned guys. You got another guy that's
I got to make
available.
it realistic for the people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, 0%. Luataro
Don't
Bavaro.
laugh. Don't encourage this, Vandy. I know. Not allowing it.
He's had a tough little season for Bavaro. I mean, he's had a tough round 1, 3, and 5, 4.54, 2.1 points, but I think we're seeing both Old Glory DC and him starting to turn around in the past couple of weeks. I mean, both 80-minute games, 80 minutes played, 9.8 points in round 6, 9.2 points in round 7. We've seen this guy be lethal. We've seen this guy be a threat in the back row position fantasy-wise last year. It's in due time that he kind of picks it up.
For me at the back row position, Aiden King. 6th overall pick in the 2024 MLR draft. He is also available in all leagues. He's only just started getting consistent starts with NOLA. Started the past 2 weeks and has got 8.4, 11.2 respectively. He's actually scored above 8 points in the past 3 weeks. And I think confidence is building for this guy that's making a name for himself in Major League Rugby. double-digit tackles in the past 3 weeks. Scores his first career try this past weekend. I think Aiden King is a fantastic pickup. Nice little depth option. The trajectory seems to be going up. Matt likes to say to the right, up and to the right, right? Up and to the right.
Yeah, you got
And
it.
that's what seems to be what Aiden King is doing. So he's
The
a guy.
slope of 5.
He's a guy that I would be very content in picking up this week, and I would stream him this week, especially going up against Anthem Rugby Carolina. Always has the chance to score the try there. I know you're gonna laugh at me on this one,
Not
Maddie,
anymore.
but I'm gonna say it just because I feel like I have to.
Yeah,
Ben
what?
Houston is available in
Whatever.
29%
All
of
right.
leagues.
How many?
29%.
Okay, switch that
I'm just
around though.
saying.
How much
No,
owned
no,
is
no.
he?
My question to you, Maddie, is if he's
What
available, if you're
percent?
one
If
of
he's available in 29% of leagues, how much is he owned? Well, that's 71%
that's not the
for you,
question.
sir.
Good maths, Maddie. Good maths. No,
Quick
the
math.
question is a dollar value. Obviously, Ben Houston should not be available anymore. He's one of those guys that was on the waiver wire way back when, and now is not. Auto start. How much fab are you putting down if you're in the couple or handful of leagues that Ben Houston's available in?
Like at least 10.
Okay. I would
I
go
don't
as high
know
as
how
20.
I put 41 and everybody went crazy. By
On
the
Joe.
way, not worth it.
No, on
Don't
Joe.
do it. Don't advise.
There you go. All right. Second, or go moving on to the scrum half position.
I got
Maddie,
nobody.
you got nobody? Why do you
I
have
got
nobody?
nobody. I mean, maybe Oscar Lennon if John Poland's still hurt, but like we saw the game change when Oscar Lennon came on over the weekend. Like Bandy, you saw he played really well when he came on.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening with John Poland, so I'm not going to advise picking up Oscar Lennon when we don't know exactly why John Poland isn't starting.
We said his name last week. We'll say his name again this week. People kind of listen to us, but we want to get this number higher and higher. Carl Keane,
Oh, so you're insider
57%
trading.
owned. But if he's available, go pick him up because he's one of the few nines that you're guaranteed to start each week. If you need a streamer this week, keep an eye out for Nola Gold and who starts in that against Anthem Rugby Carolina. There's a chance that Luke Campbell
Just at
doesn't
15.
start. Huh?
Just look at 15. Are you talking about Nola?
Yes.
For the 9.
9.
Oh, stay away from Nola.
No.
Don't even touch their
I mean, you
9,
need
man.
a player. You need
Don't
a
even
player.
touch their boot it. Like punt it. Don't touch the Nola 9 position.
Okay.
It's a black hole. Get lost.
You wouldn't even if you have an open empty spot and you just need to play a 9.
Punt it.
Would you start
Sorry, you're right.
Well,
I do want those 0.8 points that I get from Luke Campbell on a week in, week out basis. You're
That's
right.
true.
And maybe the 0.3 from Ruben DeHaas.
All right. Fair enough. Point taken. All right. Let's go to the fly half position. Move on here quickly. We both that the fly half's also a black hole. Maddie, you have
I don't know. Who am I supposed to have? Dorian Jones, I guess. No, actually, for this one, you can go with Nola. Like a Dorian Jones, I think should be the starter outright. There is in no world where Luke Hardy and Reese Botha come back in. Same way as I think Luke Campbell's going to remain the starter. They're just better with Dorian Jones and Luke Campbell starting. And when Dorian Jones plays, he's solid. Like you can expect a solid, decent game from him. He's played 3 matches and he scored double digits in 2 of them. Like I can't expect much less. You compare that to a similar guy who's probably got the similar circumstances. Harrison Boyle, who's actually played a lot more. He's yet to hit double digits once.
Yeah.
So like you make the comparison, Dorian Jones seems like the much better play here, especially with a game against Anthem coming up where he's going to have the opportunity to kick for conversion.
Dorian Jones or Rodney Iona.
Rodney Iona.
Okay. Martin Elias is my pick. Just may have been dropped through the bye week. Check if he's there. Same owned percentage as Dorian Jones. Would you go Elias or Dorian Jones?
For this week, Dorian Jones.
Okay, good to know.
Probably
All right,
not going to start though.
Moving on to the
Ruben
center.
DeHaas.
Moving on the center position. We both have a guy that we had, or at least I had a couple weeks ago.
You had him last week. Good on you.
You were not on this train. You didn't want him.
I'm still not. I was reluctant to put him in my waiver wire.
Stephen Hughes has a great week. Has 47.4 fantasy points. Is outscoring your guy, Nick Grigg, by 15 almost.
Yeah, because Nick
Um,
Griggs played 3 games. What do you mean?
well, but that's what I'm saying. That availability is a ability, and Stephen Hughes
His
is
He wasn't even
ability is the
signed
best.
until after the first game. What are you talking about?
Nick Grigg wasn't in the lineup last week.
Well, it's not availability. It's their rest and their best guys.
So would you rather have Stephen Hughes or Nick
Nick
Grigg?
Grigg. Nick
Okay.
Grigg.
Okay.
I would definitely rather have Nick Grigg. Look, I don't like, yes, 14.5, 12.7, great. But you look at the first 4 weeks, it's like 6.3, 6.3, 2.6, 5 points. And you look at Nick Grigg, basically double digits every time that he's played.
Okay. Streaming option or long-term value here with Stephen Hughes?
It's always going to be long-term value with him. He's playing 80 minutes a game. Like you're not necessarily streaming him, but he's going to be droppable at the same time, you know?
That logic.
Guy on Maddie's waiver wire segment is also quite droppable. I don't know if that might be a first that we haven't. I also going to shout out Tautala Tassi on Houston. 0%
Guy
owned.
on Maddie's waiver is drunk.
23 fantasy points for him. He's coming off of injury, but he goes up against an RFCLA squad that is the worst against center position. I think is a good streaming option. Let's move on to the back three position. I got Rian Stowers. We broke him down last episode.
How is he? What is his
No-
phone percentage?
No one listened to us. He's still
Yeah, it's about to
14%
shoot
on.
up though.
14?
14% own. He's coming off 2 weeks that
Guys
has
don't
triple
watch. They don't
digit
watch the
meters
games.
gained. How much money are you putting down on Rian Stowers?
Like I'm about to put everything I have left on Rian Stowers.
How much you got left? Just asking for a friend.
105.
Wait, what?
Matt, who do you got? Who do you got on your lineup?
I got Mitch Wilson. One, I probably would have put Rian Stowers if I just assumed he wasn't. Everybody picked him up, but I guess not. But Mitchy Wilson, the fact that he's only owned in 43% of the leagues, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. He doesn't necessarily offensively do too much, but the fact that you can put him as kicker eligible when he's starting, for me, I think that is kind of a key. Like the fact that he can get double digit points if you don't have a lot of trust in your fly half, or if you have one of the fly halves that are not kicking. Mitch Wilson's a nice
Talk about a
guy to
perfect build, like a Joel Hodgson, Mitch Wilson combo there. You know, like when D'Angelo Leila's on the field, like that's perfect. Hint, hint,
Crazy.
Bandy. If Mitch
Rian
Wilson's available, go
Stowers?
pick up Mitch
Rian
Wilson.
Stowers?
I will just say,
How is he still there?
Simon Peter Toliafoa, streaming option this week. I know he hasn't been impressive this year, but Miami is the worst against the back three, large in part due to their kicking game that does allow fullbacks to get a lot of opportunity. It's not a strong play that I enjoy doing, but I will hesitantly put that in there if I do have, let's say, a Joe Mano, a Jordan Trainer, or a Nick Ben that I need to pivot from. Defensive set piece, Nola Gold. They're taking on the Anthem. They're also the highest scoring defensive set piece in the league right now, 18 fantasy points. They're 0% owned. If you
They
want
were
to-
last week too, and the week before that.
Yeah. So that is an option for you guys. Same thing for Maddie and myself. All right. Now this is the drop or not game that I like to play. So I'm going to go through one guy in each position that is over 50% owned or is a big marquee name. Is this someone that you are going to drop for one of the names that you have mentioned earlier in this waiver wire segment? Pita Ane Asu, 86% owned. Seems to be coming off the bench behind Seth Smith, who's 57% owned. At this point in the season, are you dropping Pita Aneasu for a Seth Smith? For a Jake Turnbull, Maddie, what would you do?
No, I'm not dropping him.
Not even for Seth Smith.
No, I'm not convinced that Seth Smith has won the room yet.
Okay. Despite 3 straight starts.
Yeah. I mean, one of them was against Anthem, so like you can't really count that.
Okay. Second one, drop or not, Sam Carrot. He's a guy.
IR.
I get that. I get he's on IR, but he hasn't really performed for you well. Would you pick up maybe a Gavin Thornbury for Sam Carrot? I know he's not playing this week, but I guess second row slim
Gavin
pick.
Thornbury, yes.
Okay, Gavin Thornbury, you would.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Sam Carrot's definitely droppable. Like if I would probably drop him there. Like we look at him and the fact that he's put up 5, 2, and 2. And we talked about some of the guys that we talked about in our second row consistently putting up five,
Like
5 pointers. So yeah, I definitely would drop
Johan
him for
Mumson or Sam Kerr. He's a guy that you had
uh
on your waiver wire, Matt.
yeah,
Last week.
probably Mumson.
Mumson. Okay. The
Yeah.
big one and the one that we talked about off show,
Drop him.
Semi Kunatani.
Drop his butt.
I can't, dude.
Drop him. Drop him. It's time. It's time. You got one more week. If he starts next week and he doesn't play 80, doesn't perform, looks out of shape, it's time to drop
And then I'm
because
gonna be the
he's
guy I talked about like 2 weeks ago.
I know. I
That
was
makes
just
the
going to bring
world
that
blow
up.
him and Dan Crew.
Okay, well, don't
And
steal my
Dan
thunder.
Crew.
Don't steal my thunder. Don't steal my thunder. I'm getting there. Semi Kunatani or Ben Houston.
Ben Houston.
Okay.
Ed Timpson or Ben Houston, I would pick up over Semi Kunatani.
Wow. All right. John Poland.
Killer, dude.
John Poland is a guy that's kind of been in and out. Would you rather have John Poland or Carl Keane?
John Poland.
John Poland.
Okay. All right. Making sure. Lincoln McClutchy is a guy that's kind of been in and out. Doesn't have full kicking responsibility. Doesn't really play the full 80. I know that fly half is kind of a back and forth, but like Martin Elias or Lincoln McClutchy.
Martin Elias. When you're putting up 1.8, 6.3, 0.8, 5.5, 3.1, there's not that you can't be trusted to start.
Like so.
True.
McClutchy
True.
droppable.
I'll go with you. He could be. Yeah, for
And you know
sure.
the thing
But
is,
there's
like, look at the minutes too. Okay, one of them 41, but 80, 60, 60, 62. It's not like he's like
Yeah.
only playing half the game. Like
Yeah,
he's getting
sure.
minutes.
Yeah.
Our only guy that's 100% owned on this list, Dan Creel, droppable.
I think it's time.
I know he
Really?
was battling injury. You held him this far. Came off like 40-ish minutes into the match in this one.
Now,
I just don't know, like,
that
what are you
knee-jerk?
supposed to do here?
is that knee jerk to how Rousseau just looked? Or is that just
No, but like, I just don't know. Like, I don't like. I think like Dan Creel will continue to start for Seattle. They can't not start him.
Yeah.
But fantasy wise, he just simply isn't getting the opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
he's just not getting the opportunity, and you can
Dan
tell.
Creel or Stephen Hughes.
You're supposed to start here and then go here. You can't go right for the throat, dude.
Like,
I'll
no
go.
question, Nick Rigg over Dan Creel.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Dan Creel just because, like,
It's
I
still
think he's
Dan
still
Creel.
going to play 80. He's still Dan Creel. If I'm going to get a guy just for the fact that they play 80 and that they're available, I'm still.
I want to
gonna get
wait
Dan
one
Creel.
more week, but next week could be the Dan Creel drop week. I want to see one more
You
week.
got
off of
Dan
injury.
Creel?
I have Dan Creel.
Okay. I'll drop Semi when you drop Dan Creel.
All right.
All right. You want to just trade him 1-for-1?
No, I got dope centers.
All right. Last two, Ed Fido, Xavier Mignot. Are these guys droppable for guys like Mitch
Mignot?
Wilson,
No.
Rian Stowers?
Mignot,
eh?
definitely not.
You wouldn't drop Mignot for Rian Stowers.
For Reed
For Stowers,
yeah.
no, it drops. Choose somebody else. Choose somebody else to
Mitch
drop.
Wilson.
Ooh.
Drop Mitch Wilson for Stowers?
No,
Yes.
drop Mignot for Stowers or for Mitch Wilson.
No.
Okay, keep Mignot. Fido
Okay,
for
keep
Mitch
Mignot.
Wilson.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably.
But both you're picking Stowers above that.
I'm not picking Stowers ahead of Mignot.
Really? Wow. All right.
No, I'm
Interesting.
not. The Mignot will be. He's like,
He only played. I think he got off with a knock, but it's
I mean,
interesting.
22 minutes, but like he's got 3 tries in 4 games.
Yeah, it's true.
He's got 13, 15, and 16 points.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of tough to not go with Mignot.
All right. Well, that's our drop or not. It's interesting looking at that in round 7. All right. Let's get quickly
Whoa.
to the rucking rundown and give our predictions for this week 8.
Rucking Rundown.
All right. Utah on bye. Vandy's still crushing it. I'm catching up, but 21-12 for Vandy, 19-14 for myself. Maddie is 17-16. Had a tough week. We all went the same, so I guess we can't do that this week. But let's quickly
Nope.
rapid fire through these matchups and give our predictions. Old Glory DC taking on the Seattle Seawolves at home. First matchup on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's
I'll
an
go
interesting
DC.
DC for Maddie. Okay.
Whoa!
What are you going,
Yeah.
Vandy?
Yeah. Yeah.
My pick
Big
here is going to be dependent on what you pick here, Vandy.
big game from Axel Muller, I think. And Bavaro. And Vaca.
And
Watch
vodka.
Vaca.
Yeah, I was just
Watch
thinking
Vaca
vodka.
start and go crazy.
Uh, come. What? Who you going, Ryan?
I don't know. My pick's going to base on
Oh,
you.
tell me who you're going. You are always dependent on me and Matt. You tell me for one.
Yeah.
I I'll go damn. Because they are home,
Happened a quick fire. This guy's taking
I'm gonna go
forever.
DC. I'm gonna go DC in this
Give
one.
me Seattle just to be different.
Wow. Wow, you would. You would.
Switch it up.
Just
Switch it
for
up.
just for the people, he had Seattle written down. And then after he heard my pick, he changed it.
It's not based on you. It's not always about you.
What a
Not always
yoke.
about you.
All right, next
All right.
game.
Second game, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Anthem Rugby Carolina at home against the NOLA Gold. Shout out to
Hey, you want to
Louis.
see something hilarious?
Louis
He's dressed in
Vandy's
Nola
son.
gold.
Oh, he's wearing
Oh!
the gold.
Sorry, Louis. They're about to lose to the anthem.
There you go. All right. Maddie says Carolina. I'm going Carolina. I don't care what type
Hey,
of pajamas
You tell me who's
Louis is
gonna
wearing.
win. Is it going to be Anthem or Nola? Pick one. Anthem or Nola? Say one. Useless. A or N? A. Anthem.
Anthem.
Let's
All right. Off the
go.
board. He's wearing NOLA
Oh,
Gold
he
covered.
switched it. He switched it last minute. Give me Nola.
All right. Vandy goes NOLA.
Yeah,
Sons
okay.
Louis is wearing NOLA colors.
You
Gives
already
a shout out
sued me.
here.
You said N.
All right. Third
You can't
matchup
switch
here.
it then.
I'd be very happy if Anthem can
Okay,
get their
yeah.
first time win at home. Lights going out.
Okay.
Let's see it. Houston Sabercats taking on RFC Los Angeles at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. What are we feeling like here, boys?
Oh man, this was a tough one. I don't know. You go
It is
for
a
a
tough
stout
one.
defense versus a really explosive.
I'll say it
offense.
first. I know I'm the in-house guy that's been very high on Rugby LA, but I just think that the errors in this one is going to catch up to LA. I'm going to go Houston in this one. Houston is just the more stable team, and LA has the ability to put up points, but I think when you face good teams like this, it's going to be tough to make those same mistakes you've been making all season long. Until I see a game where LA can string it together, and it may be this one, I'm hesitant against these LA against these really solid teams.
Andy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be Houston. It's got to be.
Okay. Maddie?
Yeah, I'll go Houston.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's a real tough one. All right. Last game on Saturday, San Diego Legion taking on the Chicago Hounds. I'm going San Diego in this one. At home, bounce back game. I think their play style is going to do well to go up against Chicago. I think San Diego is going to have the ability to go up. They're pissed. They're going to do it. And Chicago's going to have a hard time keeping it and not going to be able to play the game on their terms. What say you guys?
I'll be honest. I think this one's got the recipe for a banger.
It could be.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it does.
I think it's going to be a defensive battle.
Defensive battle. I think it's going
Yeah.
to surprise everyone. I think
Really?
we're looking at like a 32-29 win for Chicago Hounds.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go San
wow.
Diego. I'm gonna go San Diego, but I do think that this one's gonna be a really pretty clinical defensive battle. I think it's gonna be a game of possession.
I'd
really.
love to see a first start for Tim Sweel
I got to switch it
after
up.
getting injured in that first round.
I got to
Really
switch
cool.
it up. We can't all go same.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, we've been Vandy.
Oh,
You've been.
I've been different.
Yeah.
Well, I was different, and then Ryan stole my bit.
All right, last one here. I feel like we're all going to be on the same on this one, though. New England Free Jacks at home against the Miami Sharks. I think not much to be said. Miami's coming off bye, but they have yet to prove it to me that they are a adequate side to be taking on these
They
solid
stink.
teams. I'm going to go New England.
If Miami
Yeah, I'm
beats
going
New
New
England, I'm going to feel double depressed, even though we're on bye week and we can't lose.
Yep.
That's true. All right, there we go. So our picks are locked in. We'll see what move can be made. All right, let's quickly wrap up last segment of the show and talk a little bit about laying some money on the line.
TFR Betting Challenge.
All right, the TFR Betting Challenge presented by Betstamp. Betstamp betting made easy. We've partnered with Betstamp to give our community members the best new user deals at sportsbooks available in your area. Check the link down below to see what sportsbooks are available and what deals are available in your area to get some free bets and start making some money on Major League Rugby. Vandy's been doing just that, making some money on Major League Rugby. Indeed, almost at that triple digit mark, $96 over he's made
Oh,
so far.
come on
But I
now.
did cover some ground on this past week. I'm up to $43 made this year. I made $12 this past weekend. Vandy, just a small loss of 15 cents. Closing the gap here. Just got to double my money here. Maybe I go all in $43 on a pick this week to try to cover that. Some interesting tidbits. Carolina has covered every single line for
This
the
is what they
past
do.
4 weeks.
This is what they do. The books keep doubting them.
It's true. They go up against NOLA. Let's go to our in-house correspondent, sportsbook correspondent, Matt
Yep,
Yee. I shouted out to the people, Matty, we got to come up with a game for you. I'm
we
going to give
do.
it out to the viewers
Sure.
and listeners. Hey, if you have a game that you can come up with how close Maddie can come up with these lines, we'd love to hear it. Let's
Well,
make up the rules here. We've created fantasy MLR for you. You create a sportsbook betting line game for us, and let's see how
just
Maddie is.
just like I did in round 7, I'm about to smash these lines again in round 8. Get it from the book right here, from the source of the book. Matt E. Seattle going to be favored by 3.5 against Old Glory. NOLA versus Anthem. NOLA is going to be favored,
Okay, wait.
right?
I think that Seattle line, low key, is money because they are away. I think that's a great line for that,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I agree. That is a great line. That's how the books are going to call it, though. You heard it here first. NOLA versus Anthem. So last week, what was it? 13.5, I think, 14.5.
It was actually
18.
18 and a half, and then it
18, that's
dropped down by game time. It dropped down to 15 and a half.
Geez, I'm surprised it didn't go up once I saw they had an all domestic lineup. The NOLA versus Anthem, yeah, it shouldn't be 18.5, but it will be close to that. It's going to be 13.5, favoring NOLA again. Smash the cover. Anthem's going to cover that, potentially win, probably win. Houston versus RCLA. Houston's going to be favored by 6.5 here. I would stay away from that one. I'm not sure how. I don't think you're going to get great odds on that one. San Diego versus Chicago. San Diego is going to be favored by, I think, 5.5 here. And I would, again, stay away from that one. I'm not sure how I feel about that. If the line is, I don't think the line will be bigger than a try. But if it is bigger than a try for whatever reason, favoring San Diego, hammer Chicago to cover. And then the Free Jacks versus Miami. Free Jacks, I think, are going to be favored by 10.5.
Okay. Free Jacks favored by 10 and a
Yeah.
half. All right.
My favorite one's Anthem, and my favorite one would be the Seattle game. I genuinely think Old Glory DC are going to come away with a win.
And I think this is to Vandy's strategy as well. I don't want to be outside looking in when Anthem gets their first win. It's going to happen. And I think part of my budget each and every week is going to be a solid $1 to $3 bet on the straight out money line, because the odds are way too good, right? Like plus 600 last week against Seattle. Like I bet like $3 and I was going to make like 20. And it's like,
I always call it the pocket change. So you bet like $1 and then whatever the cents are left in your account.
there you
Like
go.
last week, I think I bet like $1.18 on them or something.
There you go. So, again, they've covered the past 4 weeks. That seems to be a money play so far. Yeah, if it's anything larger than 2 tries, I'm hammering that. The other one that may pique some interest for me, if for whatever reason San Diego happens to be the underdog, just because Chicago's on a tear, San Diego's coming off of a loss, there's a chance I'm hammering San Diego underdog if that's the case.
Well, actually, they're both 5-1.
Yeah. So it's we'll see. We'll see. But again, Anthem seems to be the cash cow that keeps on giving, at least the past 4 weeks when it comes to that spread that has been covered for the past 4 weeks.
Oh, right. Changing my San Diego line. That one's going to be 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5. Okay.
I thought
So,
Well, I say 5.5 was a bit large. 2.5. I think 2.5 in favor of San Diego makes sense.
I think those are really close. I think your Houston one might be more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've been hammering RFC Los Angeles has been my moneymaker for the past couple of weeks because they've been underdogs. I don't think
we're
gonna have to watch.
Okay, 8.5. Would you go LA to cover 8.5?
No, I need at least 10 points. Give me at least 10 points,
Yeah.
and I'll take LA.
Yeah. So we'll
Dude.
see from that.
I just realized in the East, every team besides Chicago has a negative point differential.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's
East
crazy.
stinks.
The Western
is the
Conference is
worst.
so much better, man.
West Coast, best
And
coast,
the good
East Coast.
Legion, Houston, Warriors, they are money right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right. So for our listeners, for those of you who are going to try to come up with a game for Maddie to see how close he can get to these lines, apparently he is his own sports book. 3.5 DC underdogs, plus 13.5 Carolina, minus 6.5 Houston, minus 2.5 San Diego, minus 10.5 New England. All right, we'll see if I can cut the lead here from Vanny, who has been making a whole bunch. This betting challenge has been going a lot better than our off-season betting challenge. Let me just tell you, it does feel good when I open up my DraftKings or my Fanatics account and I see a lot of money in there.
Hey,
And it
my
feels good.
off-season one went fine too.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, you got
Anyways,
a futures coming up still?
Any what?
You got
It's
a
still
future.
waiting. That futures.
Oh, I think. Hold on. Let's do a quick.
No. It's still waiting.
Yeah.
URC's not done yet. Or was it top 14?
It was top 14.
Top 14 is not done yet either.
Who'd you bet again?
I bet Toulon. Let's see here. I like third place. Like they're one win off. I bet like I was it $1
To win? You took them to win this or win the tournament?
Win the league.
And how much did you make?
I think like it's like plus 1,500 or something. Like it's something decent.
Oh,
but I only
yeah,
put
I was
like
up like 30, 40 bucks. Never mind.
No, it's nothing like that. I only put like $1 on it too. So either way. All right. As we wrap up this show, anything else you guys have to say for the people?
Negative.
Negative. Nothing.
Go out, give somebody a hug, go help an old lady across the street, go change the world a little bit, set your fantasy lineup. It'll
Touch grass.
It'll give you clarity, Yeah, that's all I got.
That's the words of wisdom from a humbled Devin Vanderpool. We'll see if it stays that way next week. All right. We'll see everyone here next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you again to all of our supporters. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week. For Matt Yee, for Devin Vanderpool. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Bronx Bombers?
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.